Yo, how is everybody doing today? This is, of course, your boy Bernie here, doing a different video here on the 4 a.m. football channel. And this is going to be a very interesting video because I watched a lot of YouTube this past weekend, especially with the debacle. And you guys can clearly see on my screen the ugliest logo in the Premier League. That's just a shot just because I'm a Liverpool fan. But Man United used to be a club feared by most clubs. You look back to 10 years ago, and everybody wanted to be a Manchester United player. I mean, the way that Sir Alex Ferguson has built the club from when he started back in the 90s, I think he started in the 80s even, to where they were at when he retired, he made them become a mega giant impact in football, always got the best players, and now they are a shell of their former selves, as you can clearly see by the way that the club has had 2 losses in a row right now under Ten Hag. Again, I don't necessarily blame Ten Hag. I think Ten Hag is probably the easiest scapegoat for Manchester United. And the other scapegoat, too, are the Glazers as well. There's rumors, and I can pull it up, the article right here, that the Glazers may be willing to consider selling a stake in Manchester United. I still think they want a stake in the club itself, but they're looking for a potential other buyer to kind of own Manchester United, because the problem right now is that Manchester United are so far into debt that it is hard for them to sign players because of how poorly they've been managed since the Glazers have taken over. And really, I think it started in the 2011, 2012, more so in the fact that they got players that they didn't necessarily, I think, were Manchester United quality. You think about the Royal, or I can't remember what the name was it for. So my English viewers, tell me what the name of the group was. But I believe it was like David Beckham and those guys that came in, and they were known as like the core guys because they were from the academy. They came through the ranks and eventually took over the midfield and let Manchester United back into the glory that it once was, where it was the most feared club when the Premier League officially became the Premier League, to where it's at right now. And like I said, Manchester United are a form of their former glory. I want to take a look back, more so when we look back at kind of the years that have gone by. This was the year that Aguero scored that goal. We look at the reason why I kind of brought it to the 18-19 season is because I felt like this was the year where 2 teams of a similar path went in 2 different directions. That is, of course, talking about Arsenal and talking about Manchester United. And both of them have their same set of problems. Both of them at this point had owners that the fans despised. Both of them had players that they thought were not good enough for the club. And at this time as well, both teams thought that the manager was not good enough anymore. And clearly, Manchester United has been searching for that manager throughout their whole career at this point. I mean, they stopped at Ten Hag this last year, and Arsenal continued to look for people after Wenger, and they ended up going with Mikel Arteta after going with a couple of stints from other guys as well. And Manchester United went the Jose Mourinho route, which I think was probably their best bet. They also went with the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer look, and then they went with, I believe, an old Manchester United head director. Let me see what the name of the older guy was. It was, maybe he is, I thought I would have it on here, but nevertheless, they had another, Ragnick, I think was his name, and it didn't work out. And we look at the Glazers, and when they officially took over in about 2005, appointed as chairman. And, we look at the sporting director, there's only really been one, João Vieira, who's been there for a very long time. And the time of his post was actually this last year, and they finally went in a new direction. And like I talked about, we look at the English Premier League table, both clubs went in a different direction, and you can clearly see that in the current year, as it currently stands, Arsenal right now are in 2nd place. Meanwhile, Manchester United are down at the bottom of the table with a -5 goal difference for a team that has the mighty Ronaldo on it. You think about him in Real Madrid, you even think about him back when he was at Manchester United. This is unacceptable for Manchester United. I know the jokes and the phrases of, it's of course it's Manchester United, but this really is a sad state of affairs when you think about what each team took its route for. And that to me is the frustrating part of a team like Manchester United, who continue to do it the way of a Barcelona. And they are the perfect comparisons for one another. Barcelona bought a lot of really bad investments with them players, Griezmann's or Coutinho's, and they continue to do it each throughout time. I think Umtiti was one of them as well. Dembele, just because of the injuries, and it continues to hurt them financially, and why they have to sell so much of their capital just so they can register these players like Lewandowski, like your Koundés. And it is a frustrating thing to see that these clubs sell their souls just so they can get a little bit of the piece of the pie and continue to compete. Now, while I don't think that Manchester United are in sort of a danger zone situation, like I don't think that they're necessarily going to be relegated, the issue that comes from this stuff right here is Manchester United is so much better than that. And I want to go over kind of the history of the transfer market, because I understand what people are going to say. It's the Glazers' fault. It's all this stuff. But I think what the Amazon documentary series on Arsenal, All or Nothing, showed us is that the owners are involved. Like Josh Kroenke, as much as the fans from Arsenal dislike him at times, he in that documentary, and again, you could say it's propaganda. It is what it is. You know, it's Arsenal propaganda. But he's invested. He's shown that, okay, I'm willing to fly over there, make it work out, see why our club is not succeeding the way that we want it to. And he went in and made the changes that he needed to. Meanwhile, for the Glazers, you could say that they're an absent man, they're an absent owner, but at the same time, the stuff that people, or I should say the stuff, but the transfers that they had, all the things that has been brought on by Manchester United the last couple years has been very piss poor. And, you know, we look at the Manchester United transfers from all this stuff here. We had Rob Van Persie from Arsenal, you know, Kagawa, Zaha, Powell, Enriquez. And then we go over here to the 14. You got Juan Mata, you got Fellaini. And then it starts to get worse and worse. You got Welbeck, you got Kagawa, to Borussia. I guess these are sales. We want to go to signings. Then you got the signings. You had Angel Di Maria, you had Luke Shaw, you had Ander Herrera, you had Rojo, you had Daley Blind, Falcao, Savic. A ton of guys to me that don't fit the profile for Manchester United. And then we go to the 15-16. You got Martial, you got Schneiderlin, you got Depay, you got Darmian, you got Schweinsteiger, you got Romero. And then we go to the 16-17 season. You got Paul Pogba, which is, again, one of the biggest transfers ever for this club. And the fact that they couldn't make it work for him there, it's a shame. And again, I think both sides are to blame for that, just from an outsider's perspective. But I still think the Manchester United did him dirty. You also had Mkhitaryan from there. You had Eric Bailly, Zlatan Ibrahimovic from 16-17. And then you go into the 17-18. You got Lukaku, you got your Matic, you got your Lindelof, you got Alexis Sanchez. And this is where I think the club started to bottle a little bit. Because as we can see here in the 18-19, they brought in Fred. Wasn't that good. Dalot has shown time and time again that he is not a Premier League starter. Lee Grant, or I should say a starter for the top six. Lee Grant from Stoke City. Not very good. Then we go to the 19-20, where this was the big one, or I guess one of the biggest mistakes from a Manchester United perspective. Harry Maguire from Leicester City. Bruno Fernandes from Sporting. You got Wan-Bissaka, who a lot of people said was better than Trent, better than Reece James. That is fake news. Then you got Daniel James from Swansea. Then you got N'Golo. And then we go to the season where they bring in Donny van der Beek. Clearly not Manchester United ready. Diallo from Atlanta. No. Telles. No. Pastrelli. No. Cavani. Great player. And again, it continues to be a frustrating situation. I don't think they necessarily have the this past year with Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, and all these guys. And it clearly shows to me that they continue to buy the big names. They continue to buy these players that don't fit the Manchester United profile. And that is the frustrating part about Manchester United. Again, I am not a fan, and if, to be honest with you, if they stay the way that they do, it's comical. It's gold. But we also said that about Arsenal, right? And I think Arsenal is the prime example of what clubs should really strive for when they've kind of reached that boiling point of, okay, We got to the highest point we could get to as a club. Now let's try to do the youth movement. Let's rebuild. And I think Sancho should have been the person that they rebuild this club for. I think the biggest mistake, as we can clearly see, was bringing back Cristiano Ronaldo from Juventus and trying to save him from going to Manchester City just for the legacy. And I think Manchester United were so enamored with the romance of bringing Ronaldo back, think that he could solve the problems for Manchester United, and it's clearly shown that he cannot solve all of Manchester United's problems. And the question now becomes, where does Manchester United go on from here, right? The question about it becomes, what does Man United do? Because at the same time, you have all these players that are not really Premier League proven, or at least top 6. I mean, let's go to the squad really quick and just kind of look at who is starting for them and kind of the squad that they've got right now. And I wish they kind of had a fixtures. I'm not sure if we can look at their club. I mean, let's go to whoscored.com really quick. Whoscored. And I'm not sure if they'll have it here. We can go to past week, to Manchester United, and just look at the squad from this past week and really just see what happened here. So let's go to this, where are we at? We want to go here, to the match report. And look at the club that started for Manchester United here. You got Ronaldo, you got Sancho, you got Fernandes, you got Rashford, you got Fred, you got Eriksen, and then you got Shaw, Martinez, Maguire, Dalot. And again, what you see here in this sort of 4-2-3-1 formation is that they clearly have players in positions that cannot handle the way that Manchester United need to play from here on out. Again, we look at your Sanchos. He did not play very well this last week. Eriksen, they're trying to tinker with him too much. They're putting him in many different positions. They put him as the false 9 the previous week. Now they got him in a pivot with Fred. And I just think that with Eriksen and Fred, I'm not sure if that's kind of the defensive midfielder pivot that you want. And again, I am no strategist. I am no expert in what is going on the field. But what I can tell you is that it's definitely not working. You bring in McTominay. Didn't play very well, in my opinion. Hasn't played well since they brought him. Malacia, a guy that they probably should start a little bit more on the bench. You know, Donny van der Beek. What does he really do? And then, of course, you got De Gea. Probably one of the worst performances that you could potentially see from a Premier League goalkeeper. I find it very interesting from a perspective of this is the mighty Manchester United from all those years back when they were terrorizing the Premier League. We can look back and look at their history, and clearly there's a disconnect. And that just comes from the sporting director, that comes from the manager, that comes from the owners as well. Again, I don't want the owners to be blameless. I think that there is a lot of this, and at least in English fans, from what I found out, is more so the fact that they really don't like the owners. They are really anti-owner. But when you have a club like Arsenal, like Manchester United, who are willing to spend the money, which they have in the past, I'm not saying that they're doing that now, but especially from Manchester United's perspective, they have been balling out on the cash. The problem is you haven't gotten that return from that. And you can clearly see with the defensive midfielders that they have. I mean, McTominay and Fred are not Premier League standard at all. And that is the frustrating part of being a or if you are a Manchester United fan, because it seems to me that there's no direction. There's no, hey, this is, we're going to really listen to Ten Hag. This is the way Ten Hag likes to play. This is the team that we're going to build around Ten Hag. Instead, it's let's try to get the best players and let's see if it sticks. And that strategy will never work in any sport. It doesn't matter what sport you play. The reason why it doesn't work is because of how many players it takes to be on the pitch. You need 11. Or sorry, I guess it's 11, right? And so, at least on the field, and you need that. You need the players to coexist. You need the players to make the runs and the stuff that the manager wants. And again, as much as we'd like to blame the Glazers for all the issues and, kind of blame them for why Manchester United have been so piss poor, I think that the Man United board needs to look at themselves and think, how have we fallen? And it's because of these transfers that they've made the last couple of years, right? They bring in guys that are not Premier League proven, not necessarily saying that, oh, they need to be a Premier League type of player. I guess they did bring in some Premier League proven players, but I just think they didn't bring players that really fit the mold and the system of what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to do, what Jose Mourinho wanted to do, what Ten Hag wants to do. I mean, they promised him a lot of stuff, and they haven't delivered on that. They wanted Darwin Núñez. They didn't get him. They wanted Frankie de Jong. They're not going to get him. Right now, they're potentially going to get Casemiro, but Casemiro, again, is another stopgap and really what not Manchester United needs. I understand he could, stop the bleeding. He's a bandaid, but what you really need is someone that's going to potentially be the future. And again, I think Jadon Sancho has to be that for Manchester United. I think that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it for Man U. But from an American perspective, it just looks like it's a poorly ran franchise. You think about your basketball teams, you think about your football teams, you think about your baseball teams. There is a certain style of play that all teams like to do, and I just don't know what Manchester United's style really is. We said before on this channel with Josh and I kind of agreeing or maybe disagreeing on the fact that they do need to get rid of Ronaldo. How do you get rid of him? Do you just cut his contract? But they need to find a way to get him out of there because, again, it comes back to what Arsenal's problem was the years back when they had Willian, they had David Luiz, is that they got guys that got too comfortable. Guys on high wages, just to say, oh, well, I'm getting paid. Aubameyang, unfortunately, is in that category too. Guys that got paid high wages and didn't really care whether they won or lost. They're going back to their Bugatti. They're going back to their Maserati. They're going back to their Ferrari. It doesn't matter. I mean, Manchester United, Ronaldo's making, I think, damn near almost 500K a week. And again, it's not to say to hate the players for getting their money, but it's the lack of accountability from not only maybe not so the manager, because I think the manager actually does a better job of it, but more so the owners and the directors of the football team. This is your club. You need to take care of your club because the value of it is going to continue to decrease as much as you won in the past. History doesn't matter if you don't continue to uphold that history to this day. And that is the frustrating part if you are a Manchester United fan or someone that, likes Manchester United from afar. Maybe you're a PSG person and you like Manchester United because you're from France, or again from Real Madrid, just from that transfer of Ronaldo to Man U. Or sorry, from Man U, Ronaldo to Real Madrid, Ronaldo. And that is what I think Manchester United need to kind of hone in on, is not worry about the Casemiro. Don't worry about those signings, but really focus on who is the person you're trying to bring in. Who are the players you're trying to bring in to fit that system that Ten Hag wants to play? I think you have to lie your bed with Ten Hag and see if you guys can play that way. And if not, then you have to bring in a manager that's somewhat similar to this play style that he likes and make sure that those players fit that play style. Because again, Arsenal did that, and look where they're at right now. Winning a ton of games, and this is recorded before the Bournemouth game, and I predict them to win that game. I predict them to have the same result that Manchester City had, which is blow them out. And I think it's going to be the same thing for Arsenal because they finally found a system and players that fit that system, and that's something that Manchester United continue to struggle with. They continue to realize that's the idea. It's no longer what it was back in the 90s and the early 2000s when you had your Manchester United, or really more so your Real Madrid, the Galacticos, right? Where you just brought in players and hope they stuck because you have a great manager. I think those days are over because it's much easier to build a system. It's much easier to play within that system than to just throw a bunch of players and let some magic happen. Again, I think PSG is the closest that we're going to get to that, but Manchester United are nowhere near that level of not only financial responsibilities, but also player, in terms of, maybe not player development, but, player notoriety. Again, this could be a time for Rashford to leave Manchester United and start a new journey. It's time to get rid of Fred. It's time to get rid of McTominay. It's time to get rid of Dalot. It's time to finally get rid of Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is not a starting top 6 Premier League left back. I've said that for years now, with my friend group at least. Clearly, this channel was not created until now. And then De Gea as well. They need to upgrade the goalkeeper because this is no longer a way where you just boot it out and let your guys kind of gain possession. You have to play from the back. And none of these guys, to me, scream that they're going to play from the back. But I want to know what you guys think of this Manchester United video. Again, this is just something to think about. I don't necessarily think that Manchester United is too deep in the mud, but it is a very interesting scenario to see whether or not they can kind of continue what they're going to be doing in the comment section down below. Let me know if you're a Manchester United fan. How are you feeling about them? Are you excited? Are you nervous about the future of Man U? And do you feel like you've officially hit rock bottom, or do you think it could get worse from here on out for the rest of the season? I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But anyway, my name is Bernie. Again, remember, we're trying to get to 50 subscribers. Let's get to it, and we'll catch everybody on the next episode of 4 a.m. football discussion video. Anyway, guys,